Good evening, everyone. I'm Evan from Checkbox, a company that is transforming the way we work with regulation. See, regulation is messy, no one really likes it, and in fact, it costs the Australian economy $250 billion a year. Now, it's not that we don't have the expertise to deal with this regulation. We do. The problem is actually the fact that these experts are typically trained accountants. They're trained lawyers that deal with the regulation. They're not necessarily trained technologists, which means that they don't actually have the programming knowledge to codify their expertise, and so they resort to tools that they're comfortable with using, things that are accessible like Word and Excel. Now, these tools are great, but they weren't built for digesting regulation. So let me give you an example of one of our customers. They tried to actually tackle something known as IFRS. Now, IFRS, the International Financial Reporting Standards, in 2018 is being rolled out across Australia. It affects companies globally, small to large. And they try to use Excel to solve this. So this is what they did. They took something that looks like this. This is the regulation in its raw form. And they transformed it into 50 Excel spreadsheets, each of which look like this. There's clauses in each cell, and after you read the cell, it gives you an action, go and read this cell. And then it might take you back to the 50 Excel spreadsheets where you pick another one and you go through this whole process and repeat it until you get to an outcome, right? Super messy. They were doing this with their clients. It is not a great client experience. Now, what they did was they used Checkbox and they transformed this into this. A software in the cloud that guides you through the regulation question by question. By selecting an action, you go down one path of a giant decision tree. We also have tips on the right-hand side which provide definitions, examples, and links to external resources that help you get through the questions on the left, and comment boxes as well, where you can actually provide comments to justify the decisions that you make along the way. Now, it's not just yes-nos. You can build form elements to capture facts, and also very dynamic tables that actually have calculation capability as well. Now, at the very end, you end up at the transcript. It's our audit trail that tracks all the questions you've been asked, your responses, as well as those comments that you made along the way. You can also produce completely automated documents that populate depending on how the user goes through the journey. And of course, it can be downloaded as a PDF or emailed off. Now, don't get confused. This is not Checkbox itself. This is actually the type of software, an example of software that you can build using Checkbox without any sort of coding. No programming whatsoever. Think of Checkbox as a digital transformation tool that takes regulation, typically in the form of legislation and standards, and allows you to convert them automatically into a ready-to-use software in the cloud, which you can white label. We do this through our studio. It's a drag and drop interface where users can literally drag and drop a block to introduce a new page and reroute the arrows. Now, what this meant for our clients was they could now build software without engaging a developer and react to regulatory change instantly at no additional cost. We've actually successfully been able to build software which typically would have taken months and a team of developers in just a matter of days, and sometimes even hours. Now, what sits behind this is 5 pieces of technology. It allows you to build forms, tables, and automated documents, all held together by a proprietary rules engine. And on top of this, there's data analytics, as well as the ability to deploy software that you build to your customers, so it can become a revenue-generating tool as well. Of course, the future is in AI, and what we've done is we've built Checkbox with the flexibility to integrate AI specifically around natural language processing and machine learning, which we see very soon is going to be the way that we parse legislation straight into the ready-to-use product, eliminating a lot of the manual work that is still associated today. We've had quite a lot of success for an early company. We're working with Big 4 accountancy firms, Big 6 legal firms, and global ratings companies. And whilst we're still pre-revenue, we're actually signing a deal that's in the 6 figures. So there are other software out there, but they're all low code, not low code. The main difference is that you still need to code to develop software, and it still takes a lot of time, which means that they typically don't get done, especially in industries that aren't traditionally technology driven. Now, Checkbox is built with the user in mind, which means that it doesn't actually require any coding and anyone can seriously use it to build. So Checkbox was actually announced RegTech of the Year this year, which was very exciting. But by using Checkbox, you're going to be able to reduce compliance costs through automation, generate new revenue streams, manage your quality risk through best-of-breed standardization, enhance your customer experience by providing high touch points on the digital self-service sphere, as well as retain those top talent, because now you're reshifting employees' focus onto more interesting and challenging work. So Checkbox is actually deploying live in October. So it'd be awesome if this interests you to hit me up afterwards for a demo. I'd be very pleased to do that for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Great presentation, by the way. That's a great pitch. Seriously.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Anne.
And great
product. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard, but that, although it seems a bit unusual to say it given the category, but that's seriously cool.
Thanks. Regulation is cool, I know.
Regulation. It is now. I wanted to ask, I was having a look before, and it's a fascinating business. You're combining a whole range of different elements of tech sort of innovation. What business are you most like?
Yeah, so we're essentially an enterprise app builder, loosely speaking, right? Focusing in the vertical of compliance and regulation. So it's kind of like the companies that I was showing before. We have here, Pega, ServiceNow, which allow you to build business applications, but are typically in the workflow space. We're not looking at automating workflow, we're looking at automating regulation flow. It's almost like processes that almost come off rules that are governed by regulation. So it is very similar in kind of we're dealing with workflow, but a very, very, very different kind of sphere that we're playing in. Yeah.
I know this isn't about investment, but do you have an open round at the moment, or?
It's a good question. I mean, so to date, actually, our company has been bootstrapped, which means that as founders, we've funded it ourselves. We've actually been approached by VCs and decided to actually fund it ourselves because we have 100% confidence in our product, and we have the ability to. But having said that, we do want to go global. We are actually planning to go global this financial year with interest in New York and Hong Kong already. And with that kind of expansion, obviously comes massive amounts of cost, in which we expect, we're already starting to have those early discussions with investors. So yes, we are open to it, though not, it's not front of mind as of today.
So you've obviously got the no-code versus low-code there, but
yeah.
What is the other differentiators that you've got with those main competitors, because they're quite well established, obviously?
Yes.
So how do you disrupt them to the point of taking over?
Yeah. So the no-code thing is great, but there's so much more to that. A lot of those software are model-driven. Now, what that means is that you typically have to be either a developer or you have to have a background in systems architect, right? So what that basically means is there are people out there that are called Pega developers, people that have been trained in using these types of software, ServiceNow developers. Checkbox is built so that anyone, specifically actually the business owners, the subject matter experts, now are empowered with a tool, which actually when you think about it, these people are actually under threat by technology. They're trained in a very particular domain. They're not technologists, but all of a sudden Checkbox is providing them with a tool that without that programming knowledge, they can still produce technology, innovate basically in their area. And that's because we're actually behavior driven, not model driven. So we're driven by how the user naturally builds software rather than someone who's trained classically in software development.
Yeah. Look, I've got nothing to add. That was actually really impressive. And I see a lot of presentation pictures, and this product is exciting.
Thank you very much.